there, commercial construction coffee talk fans. Thanks for chiming in. My name's David Course, and I'm your host. I'm also the publisher and editor of Commercial Construction and Renovation magazine. Oh, I don't have any glare today. I'm getting good at this. I should for about how many episodes I've done. Anyway, this is what the magazine used to look like. We went digital 100% August of 2021, but this is what the magazine used to look like. I always like looking at them, man. It's awesome. But I don't miss it. I'm digital now. Don't miss the post office. Don't miss the printer. Don't miss any of that stuff. It's just, I'll tell you, being digital is just the most amazing thing. You know, data is addicting. And I know in my last a couple episodes, I went over 3 million people hitting our website in the month of November. In 2021, we had 28 million people hit our website. Last month, we went over 3 million. So at the end of this month, I'll add up the stats for the year, and hopefully I'll go over 30 million. I don't know, but it'll be close. But it's been an amazing ride on the web, and exciting stuff. I just had a great webinar that I did this week with women in construction. I'll be posting that here over the weekend. I have to do a couple of things to the video, but that turned out great at the podcasting studio, where I'm going to do my summit. That's coming up January 26th. So I'm about, about 5 or 6 weeks out, and starting to get people registered, and looks like that's going to be a really good event. And I'm going into production next week for my last issue of the year, and finish the year off strong with a really healthy issue. And my life here, like the New Year and the holidays, like a lot of people, they'll take off for Christmas, they'll take the New Year's, and then they'll start the year. Myself, I have an event coming up, so I've got to like grind out for the next 5 or 6 weeks, and then I'll take a couple days to recharge my battery at the end of January, and and then I'll kind of look at the rest of the year, and I'll get back into the swing of things. But I work all the way through. My wife's used to it. She knows that, I'm just, my head's to the grindstone, and it's looking forward to actually, I like the quiet time. Believe it or not, some people take off Christmas, some people take off New Year, some people take off a couple of days, some people take off 2 weeks. I'm already getting email replies. I'm not back till the 3rd. Don't bother me. On their auto replies. So, but listen, it's TGIF today. The sun's out. It's been raining here for like, I don't know how many days. I've seen the sun a couple days over the last 10 days, but the lake's getting really full. It's a little chilly. It's gotten cold. It was quite warm here. In Atlanta, we get a couple months of cold, but it's been fairly warm. It's been raining. We'll take the lake, the water for the lake, because we want it full for the spring and the summer. But I just went out to help my wife get some things out of the car, and man, I'm like, God, it got chilly really quick, and so old man winter is definitely arriving, and all in all, can't complain. I'm wearing my colors as usual tonight. University of Denver ice hockey, #1 in the country, and we're playing Lindenwood. I don't even know who they are, but hopefully we will kick their tails on the frozen pond at Magnus Arena tonight, and go for the sweep on Friday and Saturday night. And then I think the boys probably have one more game, and they'll take off, for the holiday, and then come back and get into division play. But it's been exciting. We won the national championship last year, 9th one, so we're going for our 10th. And only school that has that many besides, I think, Michigan. So it's been very exciting for the Pioneers. I've got my hometown Swarm. They're playing the Philadelphia Wings for indoor lacrosse. They took it on the chin last week with Rochester, so I might even go to the game this weekend. I'm from Philly, so I kind of root for both teams. And a lot of people have family coming in. You can see the town. My neighborhood. Got family members getting ready for Santa to arrive next week, and all of that good stuff. So hope everybody had a great week. Remember, enjoy your weekend, recharge, mental, everything, and get ready for the holidays, because there's lots of fun in there. And remember, don't talk politics. Don't talk politics. So with that said, got one of my advertisers coming up on this episode. All right. His name is Shane Foster. He's the regional sales manager for A&P Lighting, and they do commercial, industrial. They do a little in residential. They're lighting experts out there in SoCal. And Shane, say hello from the West Coast.
How's it going, everybody? Pleasure to be on.
And what city are you in?
We are in Montclair, California.
And where is that?
It's about 45 miles east of LA.
Okay, so I was close to SoCal, so there you go. Uh, you know, LA is such a big city. It's like Atlanta. People, I live in Sugar Hill, but I could say Atlanta, but it's someone says, "Oh, you're from Atlanta. Do you know so and so? They live over." I'm like, that's like an hour and a half away
Yeah.
without traffic. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's like so you're basically in the burbs of the LA.
Exactly. We call it the Inland Empire, right?
Yeah,
So Ontario is like the most commonly known city around us.
yeah, yeah.
If people know Ontario, you get pretty lucky, you know?
But isn't it fun? They're like, "Hi, do you live in LA? Do you know so and so?" And I'm like, "Or do you live in New York? Do you know so and so?" Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, I totally know them. There's
Or do
only
you see any of the? Do you see anybody famous just walking around? Like,
yeah.
no, I don't see anybody famous.
Well, believe it or not, there's a lot. Listen, Atlanta is the LA of the South. Okay, that's what
Uh-huh.
I call it. So every Fortune 500 company has an office here, and we've got a big movie production gig. They do a lot of movies and stuff that are down here, and so once in a while, you'll see actually a famous person here and there. So
Yeah.
yeah, that actually is not an uncommon thing. Not as much, obviously LA's got Hollywood and all that, but pretty impressive movie gig that they have going on here. So
Well, it's actually interesting because I we actually did lighting for one of the production companies in Atlanta, and I had no clue that they had production companies in Atlanta. And yeah, so that was my first experience with it. But it sounds like yeah,
well,
it's definitely thriving.
I'll tell you a little secret, like, out in I don't know, was it Castle Rock where they have the other White House out there, they have a White House, a copy of the White House. Well, anyway,
Yeah,
they have one here on Tyler Perry's studio. It's a White House where they do filming and that kind of stuff. And anyway, it's pretty massive property, but
yeah.
you would never think that Atlanta is a movie hub, but
Uh-uh.
it definitely is. And
Yeah,
there's a lot of stuff going on here. I know Warner Brothers was I think they were going to build their studio, but when the shutdown happened, a lot of stuff it went up in the air. But yeah, the movie industry here has grown immensely,
yeah.
and so but like I said, once in a while I'll be walking or be someplace and I'll be like, "Hey, isn't that so and so?" It's crazy. I was out to dinner the other night, and I was one of my clients from California. He just moved to Texas. He was up here opening up Savage. He was building a Savage store at Lenox Mall, and I told him to meet me. I texted him. I said, "Go to this location." All right. We went to Tin Lizzie's. Had some Mexican, some tacos.
Okay.
So he goes to the one downtown. He goes, "Hey, where are you?" I'm like, "No, no, I gave you the address. Why did you just punch it in there?" So he's about 20 minutes late. So I'm looking at this guy up at the bar, and I'm like, "That's my old business partner. That's my partner that invested in me when I started my company back in 2001." And he's kind of looking at me like I'm like stalking him, right? So he's on the phone. So I told my wife, I go, "Look, we're waiting for our guest. When he gets off the phone, I'm going to go up and ask him if that's who he is." So he gets off the phone, and I go up to him. He's looking at me, and I'm coming right at him. He's like, "Oh my God, do I have to pull my weapon?" You know, that's we all carry weapons here in Georgia. It's the South. So anyway, uh, I go up to him and I go, "Hey, are you Steve?" And he's like, "David." Like, I hadn't seen him, for forever.
Yeah.
And, anyway, he's still building and he's still in the restaurant business, and he's got this pizza oven that he's going to put in all the colleges. And
Oh,
uh
nice.
yeah, and it was an amazing story. I'm actually going to put it in the magazine. And
Yeah.
but it was crazy. He's not famous, but he was sitting at the bar, and I'm looking at this guy, and I hadn't seen him in a while. He lost a little weight, and not that he was fat or anything, but he lost a little weight. He was trimmed up, and I'm looking at him. I'm like, that is him. And my wife's like, "No, it's not. No, it's not." I'm like, I am not shy. So I
Yeah.
said, I am going up. I'm going to ask him. And anyway, it was him. And then his wife, his new wife came in, and and we were talking, man, seen each other in a long time, and it was just crazy,
Yeah.
You never know, the world is such a small place,
Yeah.
and I hadn't even forgot about him, but he
And
tells
had
me,
you not seen him since 2001 either?
no, I saw him the last time I saw him was with one of my shows before the crash, so
Okay.
it's like 2000. I mean, it was a long
That's
time.
a long time ago. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm talking, it had to be 13, 15 years. And
Yeah.
but he looked the same. He said the same thing to me. He goes, David, man, you didn't have a goatee, a great goatee. You didn't have a goatee, you were clean cut. And I said, well,
Yeah.
that's kind of my my shutdown goatee. And now I've I'm giving my age away, but I'm getting a little gray, whatever. But anyway, he was telling me the story. I'm like, oh man, we got to put this in the magazine. This is
Yeah.
such a freaking cool story. And
That's coming full circle then.
yeah, exactly. And so it was really good to see. You haven't seen someone in a long time, or you don't see a family member, or whatever. And people change, but some people don't. Like I look the same pretty much that I did in prep school. I'm about the same size, weight, and everything. And uh, it was really really fun. Uh, and then my client, he's got the pizza oven at his house and all this. So he's talking and they're going, and I'm like, man, I want to get out of here. I've been sitting. You were 45 minutes late because you went to the wrong place. Been here long. I got dogs that want to go out to the bathroom. All right, so I got to get home. Anyway, so Shane, this is the way it's going to work. We'll finish the week off on a positive note. You're going to tell your story, where you grew up, brothers, sisters, you play any sports, where you went to school, and how you ended up with your dad at ANP. And then we'll talk about, the last 30 months or so of the roller coaster, things that you've learned. And then you'll finish it up with one positive thought or phrase and contact info. And then we'll say goodbye to everybody. Tell everybody have a good weekend. So with that said, the floor is yours. Tell us your story.
Perfect. It's not a very exciting story. I grew up in Southern California, near Montclair, in a city called Rancho Cucamonga, which, if you're familiar with the
I know
movie
where it is. Yeah.
Friday, yeah. So Friday or next Friday, or for some of the younger folks, Workaholics. That is where I grew up, right? And lived here till I was 18. Grew up with two sisters. They were 3 years older than I was. Um, Twin sisters,
Oh,
but they were
twins.
fraternal. Yep. One was blonde, one was brunette. And yeah, got along with one, didn't get along with the other. As we've gotten older, that's changed. But yeah, they were huge influences in my life. They were
Were they older or younger?
they were older, 3 years
Okay.
older. They were very good students and very good kids. And I, on the other hand, was kind of a little bit of the wild child, so to speak. But yeah, grew up with both my parents were together throughout that time, and yeah, then I ended up going down to San Diego. Went to school at San Diego State, did 4 years there. I studied entrepreneurship and business management, minored in finance, and then after that, there was actually light fair during my senior year at San Diego State, and I had a feeling that I'd wanted to get into lighting because A&P Lighting is family owned and operated, and it was started by my grandfather back in 1985. My dad and my uncle now run it, and if you're not familiar with the story of A&P Lighting, it's actually really interesting. So my grandfather, like I said, started it in 1985, and he purchased a drill press so he could manufacture nail plates, right? So it's a piece of aluminum that holds two pieces of 2x4 together. I know you guys all probably know what that is, being in construction. And from there, a buddy came up to him and was like, hey, can we put a larger hole in this piece of aluminum and put a socket in it? And so they tested it out, and then they started putting about 2, 3 bulbs on them, and they became what's known as a vanity bar or a bath bar. And we were the bath bar king for years and years. We had 24-hour shifts running about 7 days a week.
Wow.
Yeah, it was incredible. And So we did that for a number of years. And then towards the end, China came in and they kind of took the bottom out. So we had to adapt. So there was a local spinning manufacturer here, and we ended up partnering with them to learn how to spin aluminum shades or RLM shades. And after we did that for probably about 3 years together, we spun off and did it ourselves, brought everything internal to our warehouse in Montclair, California. It's still here. We still spun RLM shades. It's a huge part of our business. And for spun RLM shades or RLM or reflective light manufacturers, they are more traditional warehouse style shades. But recently, our most popular style is going to be oversized. So we spin 24 inches up to 42 inches in some of the shapes and the fixtures.
Yeah, I remember the last time I stopped by your booth at Light Fair. I walk it every year. You had the big ones there, all different colors and, good looking stuff. Those, what is it? They're just these big gold things and the bulbs in the middle and, it reflects down. So, the concept's simple, but you got to have the right machinery and the tooling to do it.
Yeah, we're one of the only manufacturers who can spin them as big as we do. And yeah, like I said, over the past 3 years, it's been the best seller for us. And they're really big decorative staple pieces, like you're saying. They're not necessarily a high bay. They're all about adding a decorative,
Yeah, that architectural stimulating look. Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
Yeah.
And so, going on with that story, we ended up having the opportunity to buy a foundry in Tijuana. After we purchased that foundry, we then started doing our own metal castings. And with our metal castings, we did decorative post ops, lanterns, getting more into that parking, roadway, commercial, exterior, commercial, industrial business. So we've grown, developed, and I always like to joke that I'm third generation coming into this company. And if you know any statistics behind third generations, they're really bad. So I always ask as much help as I can, right?
Yeah.
But
my family, on my mom's side, they've been in basically demolition, recycling, construction since 1888. So it's like fifth generation. So when I grew up, like all the grandsons, all the boys, I grew up outside of Philadelphia. So you get your license at 16. So when you got your license, you had to go into the scrapyard and work. And but I grew up down there with cranes and the scrapyard and all that stuff. And so it was kind of, I had my erector set when I was growing up, built, all sorts of crazy stuff. And so, but it's funny though, when as like right now, my cousins are running the business, that I got bar mitzvah with, they're my same age, everybody else is kind of retired or, they've passed. And, but, my great grandfather, David Pollock, he started, Mayor Pollock Steel. And, over the years, they've gotten into different kinds, just like you, they were in recycling before sustainability was even a word, way back in 1888, but then they got into, demolition and all this stuff. And, but now, like I said, the generations, and listen, it goes with the economy and everything else. You're going to have, it goes up and down, but they're still in business. You can look it up, Mayor Pollock Steel. You'll see it, green and yellow trucks. And anyway, so I get it. The generation thing. You never, the things rolling along, and then all of a sudden, the one guy comes in and blows it for everybody, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to try to not do that. And if we do blow it, we're going to blow it in the right direction, right? But yeah, and so when I was last year in college, Light Fair was in San Diego. So
I probably walked that show.
Probably did.
What year are you talking? What year are you talking?
That would have been 2012.
Yeah.
No, 2016. Sorry.
Yeah. If you don't know, Light Fair, it's one of the biggest lighting shows in the world, and they rotate around. They do Vegas, they do SoCal, they'll do Orlando, and they move it around. So, but I've walked that event multiple times in San Diego. So,
yeah. Yeah, it's one of the best, right? It's certainly a very good experience if you have the chance to go there. It's
You know what my favorite, you
great.
know what I always used to do whenever there was a show in San Diego, I would do a 2-day trip,
Yeah,
and I don't do the red eyes anymore. See, when you're East Coast, you fly out at night, you gain the 3 hours, so you can land. So I
yeah,
would go out, I'd fly out the night before, I would walk light fare. It was probably 4 or 5 hour walk a day. It was a 1 day gig for me. After you walk all these shows over the years, I mean, I was walking 20, 30, maybe 40 shows a year, lighting, HVAC, concrete. I mean, all sorts of stuff,
yeah,
flooring, signage. Uh, anyway, I would do San Diego. I would do fly in, I'd walk the show and then have dinner that night. And then in the morning, I would go out fishing. I would catch one of those half-day fishers that go
yeah,
out on the boat and they have all the bait and tackle and all that stuff because the airport's right there, you know.
yep,
And then I
yep.
would get off my smelly fishing clothes, throw them on my bag, and then get on the plane and catch like a 2 or 3, back to Atlanta before the red eyes start, so that's the way I used to do it.
That's incredible. Yeah,
And you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? Where all those
right
boats.
out of H&M Landing. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
have done that so many times.
yeah.
It's yeah, some of the best
And
fishing
none of you
too.
have never done it because they take you out and they go down the coast and then you have to I never caught anything because the seals kept taking my bait off my fishing rod every time you throw the bait and
Yeah,
you think you got fish and it's the freaking seals taking my bait off. But there were some big fish that people caught on there, the multiple times that I've gone. But it's very cool, man. Very affordable. You get on the thing, and you take like a nice cruise. You fish for about an hour and a half, and then they come back in. It's a half-day gig, and but very fun. And it's before like in the morning you go in there. Like California, you got the fog and it's kind of cloudy and then overcast, and then the sun comes up, and in the afternoon it gets nice. So but that's how I used to do light fair in San Diego. I'd go out, do the 2-day trip. My wife knew, she's like, "Oh, you're going fishing again, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, come on. I mean, I'm gonna be right there. You don't understand. It's right next to the airport. The
yep,
planes are gonna fly right over my boat, you
yep.
know. Literally, I get on the boat, boom, I drop my rental car off, boom, I'm there. So anyway, that's my light fair, my fishing light fair story.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's a great way to do it. That is a great way to do it. But yeah, so at that light fair, I ended up handing out resumes to every lighting company that was in Southern California. From there, worked for a lighting manufacturer, LED board and driver manufacturer called Harvard Technology. They were based out of the UK, had a small sales office in San Diego. And then that unfortunately went under. So I looked up A&P Lighting's sales agent in Southern California and found a company called Del Sol Resources, who was their sales agent down there. Reached out to him and got an interview. Ended up getting the job. Reached out to my dad. I was really excited. Like, hey, I'm gonna be your sales agent down in Southern California, and I'm telling him all this stuff. And he's like, "Oh, that's great." Except for we're about to fire Del Sol next week. So I ended up getting him to stay on with Del Sol for the next couple years. We turned things around. We're continually an A group rep now, or at least Del Sol is still. And then after doing that for about 2.5 years, they offered me a job at A&P Lighting. And thankfully, I got to be with my grandfather and my grandmother for the last 6 months that they were still with us. So it was incredibly special for myself to be able to be close to them as well as work with them. My grandfather came into the office for lunch every single day up until basically the last month that he was with us. So
Yeah.
it was very special time for myself.
But you've been there since, right? Continuing on, right?
Absolutely, yes, yes. So it's been about 3 years for me now, and taking over more and more territories. So we have obviously sales agents throughout the nation. Started off working with mostly just our West Coast accounts, and now I have moved from the West Coast to all the West Coast accounts, East Coast accounts, and then Texas, Minnesota, and Illinois. So
Awesome.
we are looking for another salesperson to help us out on the East Coast. So maybe if there's somebody out there listening that has a lighting background, reach out to myself or A&P Lighting.
Hey, there's you never know. Timing in business is everything. So if you're a lighting guy and you don't like what you're doing, or you want to change a pace, AMP.
Yep.
like you said, they've got a pretty good story. So, and I know his dad, and I know the product. So first class organization, and yeah, I want to get back to your family though. You know,
Yeah.
uh, my son, he's like, "Oh, Dad, I can just, when he was growing up, my son, he just graduated, he graduated aviation school, mechanic school. He just got his A&P license. He's been at Boeing now. Anyway, I just had him on my podcast as a guest, and
Yeah.
he told a story why he went to tech school. But the biggest thing when he was growing up, he's like, "Oh, Dad, you're going to give me your company, right?" I'm like, "Hell no! You're going to go and work for someone else and go prove yourself, get fired a couple times, and you're gonna have to have a resume, and you're gonna have to come in and get hired by me. You're not going to get it given to you. I mean, first of all, I can't even get you out of bed in the morning. You go to school. How you gonna run the company? So it's funny. Like kids are like, "Oh, you're just gonna give me the company?" I'm like, no. Just like my cousins and I, we all had to go and shovel asbestos, railroad ties, and do all this stuff for them to replace my uncles, and uh, so that whole nepotism thing, it doesn't exist in my family. It doesn't sound like yours either. And
No.
that's and those are probably the most successful businesses,
Yeah.
because nothing's given to you. And I respect you that you went out and your own to learn lighting, work for
Yeah.
someone else, and then you got your foot back in the door into the family business. And uh those, but a lot. Listen, I know a lot of businesses that are family owned, that are in this construction sector, whether they're contractors or and they become these big conglomerates. But they started out small. And uh I know a lot of people have had kids. I've been around 25 years, so I've known that they have kids. Now I just was at a reception called Centerville in early December. It was the 30th, and it was their 40th anniversary of the event. But I always used to go out and do a cocktail party, and it was like the last one of the year before the holiday started. And there were several people there that had their kids there who had taken up their businesses, a couple of contractors, and there was an engineering firm that had his kids with them that were working in the firm. So I got pictures of them all, and I'm putting it in the wrap up. And I was playing with the sections today, and to send the pictures to my artist to lay it out. And I was looking, I was like, "Hey, you know what? That is really cool," because I remember all these little kids, when they were, now they're like 24, 25, whatever, and they're coming into the business. And the ones that had given the business away, that it's just really, really fascinating to see that kind of stuff go on. And
Yeah.
um yeah, and like I said, you're better off having, if you're out there and your family has a business, I'm telling you, you're better off going out and working for someone else and proving yourself. And when you come back in, the employees, number one, they're going to respect you so much more, because they know it just wasn't given to you, that you went out and you did your own thing, and then you came back. I mean, I gave my family's business. My dad was in upholstery. My dad was in jewelry. I gave up all the businesses. But you
Yeah.
know what? I'm still in construction. I build magazines,
Yeah.
so I'm kind of still in it. And all the things that I learned when I got out of school, I did my retail training at Levitt's Furniture. And I scotch guarded car and unloaded trucks. I did customer service. And then when it came time for me to go down to North Carolina, where they had like one hotel in Hickory, and in the middle '80s, when the recession was going on, and I was like, I don't think furniture is my bag. But but I passed on all of them. I did some work in jewelry. I got GIA certified, and I didn't like sitting behind the counters waiting for people to come in. And uh they wanted me to be a jewelry rep, to go on the road, and you got to get your car all set up for things, and you got to like live with your, people get knocked off, for they take your inventory. And I was like, I don't know if that's for me either. And the steel company's still there, and my cousins, they're making a killing, and they built it up. And
Yeah.
but I respect anybody that went out, did their thing, and then came back. And
Yeah.
and it's good, because it builds your character, it builds your leadership, as well as you have pride coming back, because now you have an opportunity to continue on the momentum that you have, and then maybe bring something else on that you thought of, to
Yeah.
add to all the ingenuity that your grandfather had, and you bought they bought the foundry. And so that's a really great story. Very impressive.
it's also, I mean, it's been great because I got to do a little bit of everything, right? I got to be a part of the manufacturing side with the first company I worked with, and they were super open and letting me learn the processes. And then working for an agent, that's all I work with now, are sales agents. So being able to be on their side and knowing what the expectations are from them, and knowing that we're still a small to medium sized company, right? We're not an Acuity or a Hubble, anything like that that's going to demand this sales number this month. We know we're not on every spec. We understand that. And it was great being able to see that on the rep side, because you're able to connect with them so much easier.
Mhm.
And another funny story of coming in and to a family company is, it is a different dynamic, completely different. And so when I first came in, I had built up the sales channel in San Diego, and I was the salesman, and I thought I was, real hot shot. And I came in, and then they just put me in the factory. So I worked in the factory for probably like 6 months, something like that. And I was like, how are you going to put me in the factory? But man, am I so happy that I worked in the factory. I did quotes for basically a year and a half, after that. And it was, it's just incredible to learn. I think when you come into a family business, like you're saying, people expect things, and that expectation obviously just it muddies the water with any of your coworkers or anything like that. And yeah, it's been such an incredible transition here at A&P, and being able to have outside knowledge was incredible. I love my dad, I love my uncle, but being able to have also managerial knowledge from other companies that I was with isn't
Mhm.
incredibly important as well, being able to see things from a different light. So yeah, it's been a great experience. And working for your family, and I know there's a lot of family businesses out there. It's completely different. It's a totally different monster.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Listen, I get it. Well,
yeah,
let-
it's fun.
give us a kind of an idea of what went on over the roller coaster over the last 30 months. You're out there on the West Coast. It was kind of
Yep.
a lockdown state. And
Mhm.
did you work hybrid? How did you guys function when all this went down? And then over the months, and 30 months later, here we are. Things are opening up. But how did you guys weather the storm?
Yeah, we everybody was in the office. So we had our office. We had two employees who worked hybrid. Or they didn't even work. They worked from home. We had two employees who worked from home that were higher risk, but everybody else, everybody in the factory was in the factory every day. Everybody in the office, who's normally in the office, was in the office every day. We were extremely safe, so gloves and masks, anywhere you went, and we didn't have a single outbreak, which was incredible. And everything ran pretty much as business. It was so interesting to see other manufacturers near us, competitors even, have to shut down for weeks at a time to do these cleansings and cleanings. And we were so fortunate not to have any outbreaks and anybody really come down with any sicknesses. If you felt anything, you were sent home, or you did not come to work, and you tested and you stayed home for 2 weeks, or
Mhm.
whatever it was, that you just were not allowed to be on the premises. But yeah, it was roller coaster. We had a really interesting time because we are a small to medium sized company. We have an incredible website, and we have incredible literature on the websites, but we never had the marketing capabilities of some of those bigger companies. And when you don't have the ability to be in front of your sales agents and to be in front of specifiers, it it was difficult for us because we were having to develop a ton of new things. And I think that goes for a number of people, right? But figuring out that hurdle for us and trying to find that balance of, how do we make it easier for the specifier who is working on things later in the evening when they can't reach out to us, or they can't reach out to our sales agent? What can we do for them? And that was our biggest focus throughout the entire lockdown, is figuring out how we can make specifying our product or providing on our website as much information as we can, so there is less need for that interaction. So yeah, it's been interesting, and I think we've developed just great website, as well as great literature for people to work off of.
The lockdown, I always look at everything. It's half, the glass is full, it's half empty, it's partly cloudy, it's partly sunny. Um, the lockdown taught a lot of people, A, you gotta be flexible. B, you don't, you gotta learn, as you go, when you don't know what the heck is going on. And, that was an unprecedented thing. No one knew kind of what was gonna happen. And a lot of the firms that they were worried about company culture, how am I gonna maintain all this stuff? Uh, people let them work out. Now I'm trying to get them back and all of these things. But the one thing I said, hey, I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about my company, my employees, and that we probably had some of the best years because, you know, it's either win or lose,
Yeah.
when it comes down to it. So I was having these discussions, at the cocktail party, and they, people just said, hey, if there wasn't a labor shortage, or if I can't find PMs or superintendents or whatever, I had a great year. I could even had a better year, but I didn't want to take on more business that I couldn't, I didn't want to bite off more than I could chew.
Yeah.
Okay. But I could have even had a better year. But that, a lot of people had unbelievable years. But they were the ones that kind of rolled with the punches. They figured out how to get things done, using technology, using Zoom and the web. And just like me, I was a print face-to-face guy, and now I'm a complete different company than I was 2 years. I'm complete digital, and I never had 3 million people hit my website,
Yeah.
and but now, and it's not going away. you know
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't going away. People always say, oh, they're sick of Zoom, they're using it all day long. They're not telling
Exactly.
you. If you're going to if you're going to go on a trip, and do a site visit, you're going to go on that. But if
Yeah.
you've got a little thing that takes 10 minutes, you're going to use this,
Yeah.
or whichever platform that you're on. So this has been an amazing thing. I always tell the story. I know a lot of you out there in commercial construction talking. I know but I I had a project manager on. He goes, Dave, one day I was in, Europe, England, South America, Canada, US, I did all that. That would have taken me 2.5, 3 weeks to do. Now with Zoom, I can do it in a day, and see everything, and then if I really have to go out and see something, I'll make that, I'll make the investment and go out. But nothing like seeing people in person. Can't get
Nothing
replaced,
like it.
but a lot of it can. And, a lot of, the water cooler talk and all that, so
Yeah.
you
I
know
mean,
what, I'm talking about, right?
yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, and it's interesting. I think for our culture as a company, it actually made us stronger. I think we developed more of a culture because we were one of the only companies that were still coming to work. And so we still had that sense of normalcy uh, in our company. And yeah, it felt like things flowed a little bit better, or I guess flowed easier. So yeah, it was exciting. And when we got out of it, or at least where we are now, right? It seems like the connections and within the company are definitely a lot stronger. So we're really excited about that.
So as we close out 2022 and we go into 2023, any really cool new products that you guys are going to come out and showcase, or are you going to wait for the shows to let that new stuff come out? Give us a preview.
Yeah, absolutely. So we just launched three new products. So the first is going to be the tapered dome. So it's an expansion of our oversized collection. With our oversized collection, we already have 13 different styles, and we just added a 14th one. So it's called the tapered dome. It's a really sleek design looking fixture that works incredibly well for commercial, retail, hospitality. It ranges in size from 10 inches all the way up to 36 inches. So you can get some range within those fixtures. Another really cool product that we're launching is we call it the Sequoia series, but it's faux wood. So what it is we use a 6x6 piece of aluminum for the pole, and we do a base powder coat of REL 8011, and then we hand streak it with black paint, so it gives it a faux wood look.
Oh,
And it's
cool.
been extremely popular for us here in Southern California. So it is a bit more cost effective than going to an actual wood pole. Um, and then the third product we launched at Light Fair this last year. It's called Sightline. and we won best in category for parking, roadway, and area luminaire. And then we also just won another award through LEDs magazine called the PIA Award.
Oh, congratulations. Well, Hayden sends me all that stuff. So, you as an advertiser, you support me. So you're like in the VIP line. So when your stuff comes in, I'm like, oh, I'm popping it up there, So, Hayden's doing his job,
Good, good. I just made a mistake. It's not LEDs magazine. It was SSL magazine that we won
Oh,
the
I know
PIA.
them all.
Yeah, yeah, whatever.
I know Tim, the publisher over there. I know them all. They know it's like me. I have competitors. I know who they all are.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
well, uh, if someone wanted to get into contact with you, and talk about any of your new products or, pick your brain about the lighting industry or maybe what they might be able to, you do for them, on their projects, whether they're new or renovation, how would they reach out to you?
Yeah, so the best way to reach out to us, if you go on our website, you can go under contacts, and it will have contacts for myself, our national sales manager, even both the owners, Ron and Bob. You can also reach out to me personally through email. That'll be Shane, SHANE, at ANPlighting.com.
And the web is ANPlighting.com too, right?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah. So if you got any lighting questions and you're looking for this kind of a product or, want to pick his brain or anybody there, maybe come by and see the facility if you're in SoCal, outside of LA, 45 minutes. You can take the ride out and see the factory and maybe go down to Tijuana and see the foundry. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, if anybody wants to get in touch with me, I'm at David C at ccr-mag.com. Listen, send me stuff. I look at everything, and I know you don't like me saying this either because you've heard it a million times, but it's like playing the lottery. If you don't buy a ticket, you can't win. If you don't send me something, I can't find a place for it. Very tough getting in the magazine, but we got plenty of social media channels. I post everything. So, and it's a win-win. I post it, I send you the link, you share it, helps everybody. So if you've got something cool, it could be a new product, personnel announcement, it's an anniversary, charity donation, whatever. I look at everything. So send it to me, and I'll find a place for it. So if there was one positive thought or phrase before we leave, knowing that we're closing off 2022 and going into 2023, what would that be for our listeners out there in commercial construction coffee talk?
Yeah. So real quick, I do want to shout out our Instagram too, anplighting.com, if you just want to get a quick snippet, right? But something that I recently heard that spoke to me going into 2023 is a quote that states, "If you'd like to be successful, work at your job. If you'd like to be extremely successful, work on yourself." And so that is what I will be taking into 2023. So working on myself and my personal goals. And I think that'll align with my work goals.
Awesome. Listen, I just took a 12-week boot camp, and so I'm a certified digital guy, and that's another division I built this year. And the whole thing was about mindset, getting rid of negativity, staying positive. And so I've created my business page on Facebook, and I've got a newsletter and all this stuff. Anyway, I went to prep school, 4-year border, and in our prep school on our wall, it says, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And that's exactly what I'm going to do, because we were a small little school, 500 people taking on these big high schools, and we used to beat them. Okay. And, not because we were bigger, not because, it was just the bottom line is we worked harder,
Yep.
and, it was like David and Goliath. So remember that hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. So, you just look at you can look at sports. I always like having, talking about sports. The guys that always make it in the sports, they're taking in like the bottom rounds. The top picks, yeah, they make it. But some of, look at Tom Brady. The guy's got 1 million rings and he wasn't taken until like the 5th or 6th round. He was a nobody. And he was sitting on the bench and a guy got hurt and he got his chance and there it went. So you never know when your number's going to be called, and you got to be ready to go, but you got to know what you're doing. So learn every day. The day I stop learning is the day I'm going to do something else. And that's why I took the boot camp, because I wanted to learn more. It's like data. Data is addicting. That's why we have all these people come to our site. That's why I post every night more stuff. And my wife's like, when are you coming to bed? I'm like, hey, I got some more stuff to put up here. Shane just sent me this new thing with this pole. I got to get it up there, So anyway, Shane, good to meet you. Your dad's awesome. I've known him a long time. We appreciate you as an advertiser in our magazine. So thank you so much. And listen, you got Christmas coming up, Santa. Hopefully you don't get any coal in your stocking, but he's going to show up next weekend. Happy Hanukkah to everybody too. And then you got New Year's. Go Bulldogs. Let's beat Ohio State. Listen, my mom lives in Ohio. My stepdad was a Buckeye. I went to University of Denver, Pioneer, but I live in Georgia, so I got to pull for the Dogs. Okay, so go Bulldogs. We want to beat the Buckeyes, and we want to, play whoever wins the other game, and we want to win the second, national championship again. The town, every day it gets more hyped here. It's getting crazy. And when that game happens, everybody's going to be in the bar, at a party, in the TV, and then it's just crazy here. So.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can only imagine.
Yeah, and listen, you got I'm sure there's a bowl game at San Diego State, right?
There probably is. I haven't checked in on it recently.
I'm sure there's a bowl game there. There's some of them. But anyway, we're just counting down the days here. So, well, anyway, everybody out there, enjoy your weekend. You got the holidays coming up, and then 2023. Close the books on 2022. It's going to be a wild and crazy ride. So don't think that just because the year's ending. Listen, every day is just freaking crazy. I get up early in the morning. By the time I'm done, I need to catch a couple of Z's because I'm mentally drained of all the stuff that I see that's going on in the world. And some good, some bad. But I just like having fun. I like having a smile. I don't get negative, and I take one day at a time. That's all you can do. And you can't look back because you can't change history. Can't get the time back. So make sure that you spend time with your family and friends. Don't talk politics, and have fun. Recharge your battery. You're going to need it because 2023 is going to be an unbelievable year. So with that said, Shane, say goodbye from SoCal out west to our listeners out there in Commercial Construction Coffee Talk.
See everybody. Have a happy holidays from A&P Lighting.
All right, and I'm going to say goodbye just below Lake Lanier at the Beaufort Dam and Sugar Hill, about 25 miles north of downtown Atlanta, Georgia. And I think I've got one more episode left. And then the next time you'll see me, I'll have my new background. I've got some cool neon signs that I've got coming up, but so I'll have a new background for 2023, and I'll tell you what I've got going on. So we'll see you. But like I said, one more episode, and then my new one in the new year, and then we'll start the year off. So with that said, everybody out there, I couldn't have done all these episodes without you. So I really appreciate you finding me on the web. On all the three podcasting platforms, Spotify, Google, and Apple that we're on, and really appreciate you as listeners. So thank you so much. And all my advertisers out there, attendee sponsors, you're all gold in my book. All right. And just like Shane, his company supports me. I couldn't have gotten done. And I just had my 21st anniversary as an entrepreneur, with my magazine after I left Nielsen, and rolled the dice, and I'm still standing here today. So without all you, I couldn't have made it. So thank you. I'm very thankful that, I'm here to tell that to all of you. So with that said, adios. Shane, when I get out there, we're going fishing. Okay. We're going to go fishing. All right. And to all you out there, we will see you next time on another episode of Commercial Construction Coffee Talk. Tell your dad I said hello, all right?
Have a good
one,
everybody.
Man. See you later.
See you.